My name's Mabel. I've been married to Arthur for what feels like forever, and most of that time has been spent raising our son, Dylan. From the beginning, we wanted the best for him. We scrimped and saved, hoping he'd grow up strong, smart, and independent. But you know what they say about best-laid plans. Dylan was a handful as a teenager, always getting into something. Every time he came home, whether sheepish or smirking, I was there to make sure it didn't break him or us. Arthur would shake his head, saying I was too soft on him. "You love him too much. You're spoiling him," he'd say. But I'd just laugh it off. Love doesn't spoil someone, Arthur. It builds them up. But here we are. Dylan's 30 and still not quite built up. We paid a fortune for a good education, hoping he'd find his footing. But no luck. Girls and parties caught his interest more than any textbook or job. He graduated, but you wouldn't know it from where he's at now. Job hopping like it's his career and still relying on us to keep a roof over his head. Arthur and I, we're not young anymore, but we still work part-time. Every penny we make, we save, thinking about a decent pension because who knows how long we'll be bailing Dylan out. We've paid off our mortgage, and we pinch every penny, only spending on what's necessary. And Dylan, he drops by most nights, hungry and broke. "Hey, Mom, got anything to eat?" he'd ask as soon as he walked in, without even a "how are you?" I'd always have something on the stove. "Sit down, I'll fix you a plate." "But Dylan, you can't keep doing this. When are you going to get serious about a job? Settle down a bit." He'd just shrug, shoveling food like he was trying to fill a void. "Jobs are tough, Mom. Nothing sticks. Don't worry, something will come up." Arthur would be at the table too, muttering into his coffee. "You need to stop making it so easy for him, Ed. He's got no reason to change, not while the meals keep coming." Then, one evening, Dylan came home with news. "Mom, Dad, I met someone." His eyes were lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. "Oh, I managed," my heart bouncing between hope and fear. "Her name's Fiona. I think she's the one," he said, beaming. The day Dylan brought Fiona home, I had a gut feeling things were about to change, for better or worse. He had that look in his eyes, like he finally figured something out. And there she was, smiling and pretty, trailing behind him as if stepping into a whole new world. "Mom, Dad, this is Fiona," Dylan introduced her with a wide grin, standing tall like he was showing off a grand prize. Fiona reached out her hand, her grip firm and confident. "It's so lovely to meet you both," she said. Her voice was smooth, almost rehearsed, but it was nice to hear someone speak so kindly to us. Arthur, always the skeptic, peered over his glasses at her. "Hello. I heard you're from around town. What do you do?" "I work at my family's store," she replied without hesitation. "It keeps me busy, but I love the hustle." "Well, that's good. Keeps you grounded," Arthur said, trying to read between the lines. I nudged him softly, giving him a look to keep it light. We sat down in the living room, Arthur and me on the couch, Dylan and Fiona in the armchairs across from us. I wanted to keep things welcoming, but also get some real talk going. "So, Fiona," I started casually, "Dylan tells us you two met at the community center. How did that happen?" Fiona laughed, a clear, ringing sound. "Oh, it was at the annual charity ball. I was helping at the ticket booth, and Dylan came up, all lost, asking for directions to the buffet. I showed him the way, and we just clicked." Dylan nodded, his face lighting up at the memory. "Yeah, and I kept finding reasons to pass by the booth after that." I glanced at Arthur, who was trying to hide a smirk. "Sounds like Dylan," he muttered under his breath. Dinner was ready, so we moved to the dining table. The conversation flowed more easily there, with the sound of plates clinking and glasses being filled. Fiona relaxed and began sharing her dreams of starting her own business someday. That's ambitious, Arthur said, passing the potatoes. Yeah, well, you only get one shot at life, right? Might as well make it count, Fiona replied as she served herself. I admired her spirit, but part of me worried about what that meant for Dylan. He'd always been content to drift along, not one for planning ahead. I looked at him closely, and he seemed genuinely happy. Maybe Fiona's drive would rub off on him. After dinner, while Arthur and Dylan cleared the table, a rare sight, I pulled Fiona aside for a heart-to-heart. Listen, Fiona, I began quietly. Dylan's my only son, and I just want the best for him. He can be a bit of a dreamer, with his head in the clouds. Fiona nodded, her eyes soft. I know, Mabel. He's told me a lot about how you both supported him. Don't worry, I'm not here to take him away from that. I'm here to build something with him. Her words were reassuring, but I needed to be sure. And you think you're ready for everything that comes with him. It's not always going to be easy. She squeezed my hand, her determination clear. I'm not going anywhere, Mabel. I'm in this for the long haul. It was what I needed to hear, but only time would tell. I hugged her, feeling a mix of relief and lingering worry. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something good for my boy. A year later, Dylan and Fiona got married. The ceremony was simple, nothing extravagant, but full of hope. They moved into a rented apartment nearby. Arthur and I paid for their honeymoon, a little getaway to the coast. To give them a good start, we also gave them a piece of land near us as a wedding gift. Fiona's parents, who seemed nice enough whenever we met, agreed to pay for the construction of a house on that land for the young couple. As the months passed after the wedding, Fiona and Dylan's daily visits started feeling less like family catch-ups and more like routine inspections. They'd drop by, always around mealtimes. While I didn't mind feeding them, what's a mother for if not to make sure her kids are fed? It started to wear on me and Arthur. It wasn't just the eating, it was the taking. Little things from the pantry, leftovers packed up before I could even offer. It felt like our home had become their personal grocery store. One evening, they were at it again, rummaging through the fridge while Arthur and I exchanged looks over the kitchen counter. I could see Arthur was getting fed up, his jaw tightening every time the fridge door swung open. Dylan, I finally said, a bit sharper than I intended, you two have got to start managing on your own. We can't keep your fridge stocked forever. Dylan, holding a Tupperware of last night's roast, looked up, surprised. Oh, come on, Mom. It's not a big deal. We're just grabbing some stuff. Saves us a trip to the store. Fiona, all smiles as usual, chimed in. Yeah, Mabel, we really appreciate it. Things have just been so hectic with work and the house plans. We're stretched a bit thin. I sighed, leaning against the counter. I get it. Starting out is tough, but you've got to learn to stand on your own. We've done our part. Now it's your turn. Arthur, never one to sugarcoat, dropped the bomb. It's about respect, kids. You can't just come here and take what you want. What are we, a charity? Here's the revised version of the passages. Fiona's smile faded, and Dylan's face darkened. We didn't mean anything by it, Dylan muttered, placing the Tupperware back with less care than usual. That night, after they left earlier than usual, I sat down with Arthur, feeling a mix of guilt and relief. Did we do the right thing, Arthur, pushing back like that? Arthur, ever the advocate of tough love, put his arm around me. AV, if we don't set limits, who will? They got to grow up sometime. Their visits stopped for a while after that conversation. It stung, but maybe it was necessary. The next few months were quiet, the kind of quiet that leaves you thinking too much. Then one day, out of the blue, Dylan called. Mom, Fiona's pregnant. You're going to be a grandma. My heart leaped. Despite everything, this was wonderful news. Oh, Dylan, that's amazing. Congratulations. If you need anything at all, you know you can ask. True to my word, I became more involved than ever. Fiona needed help with cleaning and grocery shopping, and I was more than happy to step in. "You're a lifesaver, Mabel," Fiona often said. "You really get it, unlike my own mom." Her words made me pause. "Fiona, maybe I should talk to your mom? Clear the air." Fiona quickly shook her head. "No, please, that would just make things worse. Let's leave it." When Isla was born, my world lit up in ways I never expected. I was overjoyed and ready to spoil my granddaughter. But soon, Dylan and Fiona started leaning on me a bit too hard, turning my joy into almost a full-time job. One day, not long after Isla came home from the hospital, Dylan asked me something that caught me completely off guard. "Mom, can you watch Isla while Fiona goes back to work? Or maybe help pay for a babysitter?" He said it like it was no big deal. I was stunned. "Why can't you two handle this on your own? You both work, yet you're always asking for help. And all those new things I see at your place. How do you afford that but not childcare?" Dylan didn't like my response. He fired back. "If you can't help, maybe you won't see Isla as much. How would you feel about that?" His words hurt. I couldn't believe he'd use Isla against me, but I wasn't about to let that strain my relationship with my granddaughter. "Fine," I said, trying to keep calm. "I'll help, but we need to figure out something more sustainable." That help quickly turned into me watching Isla nearly every day. Fiona and Dylan would drop her off early, often before I'd had my first cup of coffee, and pick her up just in time for bed. Before I knew it, my days were all about Isla, from meals to playtime to naps. As Isla grew and started school, my role shifted from full-time caregiver to chauffeur and after-school guardian. I picked her up from school, helped with homework, and made sure she had a good dinner. I loved doing these things, but it wasn't something I'd planned on. Meanwhile, Dylan and Fiona seemed to settle into this arrangement a little too comfortably. Weekends away, evenings out, and little vacations became their norm, with Isla left in our care. We cherished our time with Isla, but Arthur and I couldn't shake the feeling of being taken for granted. The more we did, the more they expected. Arthur and I started noticing more and more new gadgets and clothes in Dylan and Fiona's home. One evening, as I handed Isla over to Dylan after another long day, I couldn't hold back my frustration any longer. "Dylan, you and Fiona seem to be living quite well. New watches, clothes. It's a bit much, don't you think? Meanwhile, I'm covering Isla's necessities. That doesn't seem right." Dylan got defensive, as usual. "Mom, we're just trying to give Isla the best. You want that for her, right? Giving her the best doesn't mean leaving all the responsibility to us." I shot back. "You need to take care of your own family. It's not fair to push it all onto us." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "We really appreciate everything you do, Mom. We'll try to do better." But better never came. Arthur and I ended up buying clothes and toys for Isla, paying for her school supplies, and essentially providing for her as if she were our own child again. We loved her deeply, but we were exhausted, both emotionally and financially. It was past midnight when the phone by my bedside rang. I grabbed it, my heart racing. It was Isla, whispering, "Grandma, I'm scared. I'm all alone at home, and I can't sleep." My mind raced as I jumped out of bed. "Stay on the phone with me, sweetheart," I said, quickly throwing on some clothes. Arthur was already up, grabbing the car keys. We drove over to Dylan and Fiona's house in a hurry. When we pulled up, the place was dark, too quiet. My hand shook with a mix of anger and fear as we approached the door. Inside, Isla ran to me, nearly knocking me over with her hug. "They went to a party," she said, her voice muffled against my coat. I called Dylan, trying to keep my voice steady. "Where are you?" Isla's been alone and scared. Dylan's response was slurred and dismissive. "Mom, calm down. It's no big deal. We do this sometimes. She's fine." "Fine? It's not fine, Dylan. You left your daughter alone at night." I snapped, my voice rising. He hung up, leaving me fuming while Arthur paced the living room. We decided to stay with Isla until morning, Not that we could have slept anyway. The next day, after making sure Isla was safe at school, I made a decision. I couldn't let this go. I drove to the next city to see Clara and her husband, Fiona's parents. They needed to know what was happening. Sitting in their living room, I laid it all out. Clara, did you know Isla was left alone last night? That Dylan and Fiona often leave her by herself? Clara's face went pale. What? No, we had no idea. We thought. I didn't stop. And there's something else. You've been sending money for private schooling and other expenses, right? Well, Isla's almost always with us, and we've been covering her school fees and other costs. Clara and her husband exchanged stunned looks. We send them $50,000 a year for her schooling, Clara whispered, shock and betrayal clear in her voice. They've been lying to you. They keep the money, saying it's for Isla, while we've been taking care of her. It's all been a sham, I said, keeping my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. The room felt heavy as they absorbed the truth. This is fraud, Mabel. They're stealing from us and using Isla in their scheme, Clara's husband finally said, his tone hardened. I nodded, determined. We need to act for Isla's sake and for ours. We can't let this continue. We're with you, Clara said, locking eyes with me. A new resolve formed between us. This ends now. I left their house with a heavy heart, the drive home filled with mixed emotions, anger, betrayal, but also a grim satisfaction that we were finally going to hold Dylan and Fiona accountable. The very next morning, I contacted a lawyer and the local social services. This had gone too far. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about Isla's safety. The lawyer, a no-nonsense man named Graham, laid out our options, and social services shared our concerns. They scheduled an immediate visit to Dylan and Fiona's house. Arthur and I knew we had to be there too, to confront this head-on. When we arrived, Fiona opened the door, her face twisted with anger. What are you doing, Mabel? Bringing social workers here. They're asking why we leave Isla alone. She snapped, her voice sharp and accusing. I kept my composure despite the anger bubbling inside me. We're here for Isla's well-being, Fiona. That's our only concern, I replied, keeping my voice steady. The social workers were already conducting their inspection, and it didn't take long for them to notice several red flags. One of them pulled me aside. This is serious. We've observed enough to file a report on child neglect and failure of parental duties, she whispered, clutching her clipboard tightly. Fiona overheard and lashed out, her voice dripping with venom. You have no right, Mabel. Because of you, they're saying we might lose our daughter. You won't see her again. I'll make sure of it. Dylan, who had been silent until now, finally spoke, his tone icy and cutting. Mom, you've really crossed the line this time. I can't believe you turn against your own family. I'm done with you. I swallowed hard, trying to push past the hurt. This isn't about us, Dylan. It's about Isla, about keeping her safe. Just then, the door opened and Clara and her husband walked in. I had called them for support. Fiona's face went pale, her confidence fading. Clara stepped forward, her voice shaking but determined. Fiona, we know everything. The money, the lies. You've been deceiving all of us. We're here to put an end to it. Dylan and Fiona fell silent, the weight of the situation finally sinking in. I cleared my throat to get everyone's attention. The room went still as I reached into my bag and pulled out a stack of documents. All eyes were on me as I handed them to Dylan and Fiona. Here, I said firmly, pushing the papers across the table. These are your disinheritance papers, and alongside them, the lawsuit we filed for compensation after years of your deceit. I saw the shock wash over Dylan as he fumbled with the documents, clearly struggling to process what was happening. Beside him, Fiona looked like she might faint. And there's more, I continued, my voice firm and unwavering. We're also selling the piece of land we gave you for your wedding. Fortunately, it's still in my name. Before they could respond, Fiona's parents stepped forward, Their expressions hardened. They handed Fiona their own set of documents, the weight of their betrayal evident in their eyes. "And these," her father said, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and disappointment, "are your disinheritance papers from us, Fiona. We're also demanding the return of all the funds you've misused." Fiona's reaction was immediate. "There's no money left. We spent it all," she cried hysterically, her hands shaking. Dylan stood next to her, silent, his face frozen in shock and helplessness. As the tension in the room thickened, I took a deep breath and delivered the final blow. "We're also seeking to strip you both of parental rights," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. "We've spoken to Isla, and she wants to stay with us permanently. We plan to take full custody and eventually adopt her." Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Fiona, who had been sobbing uncontrollably, suddenly stopped. She looked up with a calculating gaze and said, "What if we make a deal? Give us $500,000, and we'll let Isla stay with you without any more trouble." The audacity of her proposal left the room in stunned silence. Arthur, who had been quietly supporting me, clenched his fist, visibly furious at the suggestion. Fiona's parents were the first to break the silence. Her father, face flushed with a mix of shame and rage, spoke up. "To think we raised someone who would sell her own child. We disown you, Fiona." At that moment, the social workers intervened, outlining the steps needed to transfer guardianship legally and ethically, without any exchange of money. Fiona and Dylan didn't put up much of a fight after that. It seemed they had given up. As we walked out, I felt a mix of sadness for the people my son and his wife had become, and determination for what lay ahead. Our priority was clear: protecting Isla and giving her the stable, loving home she deserved, far from the greed that had shadowed her young life. With the court battles behind us and the dust finally settling, Arthur and I stepped into a new chapter, one we hadn't planned for, but were ready to embrace with all the love we had. We were officially Isla's guardians. The path to get here had been painful, but the outcome brought a sense of relief. One quiet evening, as we sat on the porch watching Isla chase fireflies in the yard, Arthur broke the comfortable silence. "You think we did the right thing, Evie?" I looked at him, noticing the lines of worry that had softened into a smile as he watched Isla. "Yes, Arthur, we did what was right for her. Look, Grandma, look what I caught." I laughed, taking the jar and peering inside. "They're beautiful, sweetheart, just like you." She beamed, soaking in the praise, then turned to Arthur. "Grandpa, can we let them go now? I think they want to fly." "Of course, kiddo," Arthur said, stretching his legs and following her down the steps to release the fireflies into the evening sky. Later that week, I sat down with Isla to talk about the upcoming school year. "Are you excited to start at your new school?" I asked, laying out the new supplies we had picked up together. She nodded, her expression serious. "Yeah, but I'm a little scared. What if the other kids don't like me?" I gently tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "You just be yourself. They're going to love you as much as we do." Isla smiled, a bit reassured, then her face grew thoughtful. "Grandma, do you think Mom and Dad are okay?" "I think they're learning a lot right now, sweetheart, just like we all are. But remember, Grandpa and I are here for you always." As fall rolled in and Isla settled into her new routine, Arthur and I attended school events, helped with homework, and built a new rhythm around our granddaughter's needs. One evening, as we sat down for dinner, Arthur raised his glass in a small toast. "To new beginnings and to family, the ones we're born into and the ones we make along the way." I raised my glass to his, our eyes meeting across the table. "To family," I echoed. Isla, not wanting to be left out, raised her milk glass with a giggle. "To family." The laughter that followed was light and genuine, filling the room with warmth.
I'm Kate. a 40-year-old woman who juggles a part-time job with household chores. I live with my husband Ted, who's 2 years older than me, and our beloved cat. We've been married for 15 years, but I can't say I've been completely content. One reason is our unfulfilled wish for a child. Another is Ted's lack of help around the house despite his modest paycheck. On his days off, he prefers to laze about. Ted has always been a bit of a mama's boy, even in his 40s. He eagerly visits his mom, who lives nearby and has been lonely since his dad passed away. However, she's far from frail. She's got a nasty streak and lacks any semblance of refinement. The other day, I was standing in line at the grocery store when I accidentally let out a loud fart. Embarrassed, I turned around and blamed the person behind me. My mother-in-law, who was with me, laughed as she shared her shopping experience. Ted joined in the laughter, but I was completely grossed out. I couldn't believe such a vulgar woman was my mother-in-law. She has such an unpleasant character that she has very few friends, and it seems her only hobby is bullying her daughter-in-law. I wouldn't mind going to my in-laws' house if I got along with my mother-in-law. But no daughter-in-law would want to get close to a mother-in-law like her. Ted's older brother and his wife, Rose, couldn't stand her and moved out. Even after Ted's brother Ron passed away, patient and tolerant Rose couldn't bear living with her anymore. Despite this, my mother-in-law recently requested that we move in with her. I vowed to prevent it. However, during a recent visit to her house, she gathered both couples and announced that it was time for us to live together. She spoke as if it was already decided and even started discussing the timing of moving in. I was flabbergasted. Huh? Wait a minute. I don't want to live together, I said, remembering how much trouble Rose went through. I'm not asking you, I'm asking Ted, she retorted, ignoring my refusal. Ted, to my disbelief, agreed. Well, I don't mind living together. It would be easier for Kate to take care of Mom for living together, wouldn't it? Caregiving? Me? You must be joking, I retorted incredulously. Are you serious, asking me to take care of you after all the bullying you've done to Rose and me? She made a dissatisfied face. Oh dear, that sounds bad. I was just educating you a little as a senior housewife. Education? Are you really the one to talk about education? I thought to myself, I don't want to live together or take care of you. If you insist on living together, I'll get a divorce, I declared firmly. Ted panicked. Whoa, wait, talking about divorce over something like this is a bit over the top. Over the top? Trying to force me into living together and caregiving without considering my feelings is a legitimate reason for divorce, I replied. I have a job and a stable income, so I won't have any problem even if I get divorced, I retorted, leaving Ted speechless. Well, if Kate really doesn't want to, then I guess we have no choice but to ask your brother and Rose to come back, my mother-in-law said, causing Rose to panic. I can't live with my mother-in-law again. It would ruin my mental health. Absolutely not, Rose exclaimed. However, this time her husband tried to calm her down. Calm down, Rose. Yes, Mom might have been a bit hard on you before, but she was doing it for your sake. She's regretted it too. Regret? I can't see any sign of her regretting anything at all, I interjected. That's right, you never talk back, no matter what I say. So there's no excitement for me either. It's difficult when a daughter-in-law has a personality like Kate, but it's also difficult when she doesn't say anything, my mother-in-law added. That's right, you also have things to reflect on, don't you? Ted's brother chimed in unexpectedly, leaving Rose at a loss for words. I stood there, stunned and speechless. Besides, Rose has always been a stay-at-home mom. If you divorce, you'll struggle financially right away. You're not working like Kate, Ted's brother said, which encouraged the mother-in-law to join in. That's true, Rose. If you keep being selfish, your husband will leave you. If a woman with neither good looks nor a good figure gets dumped, all she can do is end up on the street, she said. Where exactly is this mother-in-law showing remorse? I seriously wondered. She seemed to be getting more and more carried away. Rose used to be cute when she was young. Now she's gained quite a bit of weight. Oh yeah, you heard about the news of the big deals at the zoo, didn't you? She asked. Deals? I'd like to see it, Ted's brother replied, starting to laugh. Oh, that's awful. Are you suggesting I'm like a seal? Rose asked, tears welling up in her eyes. I was flustered, trying to comfort her, but the mother-in-law and brother-in-law didn't stop. No, that's just a paranoid delusion. I was just talking about the big seal coming to the zoo, right? Ted's brother said. Seals wave their flippers and make a ho-ho sound, don't they? Ho-ho, it's a perfect imitation. Incredibly, he and my mother-in-law started imitating a seal, flapping their hands at their sides. Stop it, please. Are you guys out of your mind? I exclaimed in surprise. Rose burst into tears and stormed out of the house. I got up to follow her, shouting at my mother-in-law. How can you people be so inconsiderate and rude? No wonder, Rose, and I don't want to live with you, I yelled. Ted then spat out, you're all high and mighty because you work, but you're just a woman trying to live on her own. You'll end up on the streets just like Rose. Don't think of threatening divorce. You'll regret it. His words hit a sore spot. Indeed, although I was in a more advantageous position than Rose, the fact that I couldn't easily say, fine, let's divorce, was also true. At any rate, I absolutely refused to live together. I said that and stormed out of the in-laws' house. I wanted to find Rose and comfort her. After searching around town for a while, I found Rose trudging along. Rose. Kate. When Rose turned around, her face was a mess from crying. I somehow calmed Rose down and took her to a nearby cafe. I can't stand it anymore, she said once we were seated. I've always been bullied by my mother-in-law, and he never helps me. I agreed with her. Yeah, I guess both your brother-in-law and Ted are such mama's boys. I sighed. It's not just the bullying from my mother-in-law. I can't stand his cheating anymore. Even my mother-in-law is helping him cheat. Suddenly, this topic came up, and I was taken aback. Oh, wait a minute. Your brother-in-law is cheating and your mother-in-law is helping. Didn't you know? He's been cheating for a while. He says he's going to see his mother, but actually he's on a date with his mistress, and his mother is helping him create an alibi even though she knows what's going on. Rose poured out her feelings, crying all the while. I sympathized deeply with Rose. She was bullied by her mother-in-law, cheated on by her husband. What a pitiful situation. It's no wonder you're upset. It's heartbreaking. But why do you put up with it? Even if you're worried about living alone, you don't have to endure that much, I said, intending to encourage Rose. Rose looked up and stared at me with a puzzled look. Why am I putting up with it? That's because I thought you are too. Huh. Then Rose began to tell me an astonishing story. After hearing everything, Rose and I decided to team up and take revenge on my in-laws. Every one of them in that house is outrageous. There's no reason for Rose and me, the two wives, to be ridiculed and stay silent. We would pay them back double for the humiliation we've suffered and knock them down. That happened a month after Rose and I made that resolve. Our mother-in-law had once again summoned us together. Quietly, Rose and I prepared without telling our husbands. It was a perfect opportunity. With resolve, we headed for our husband's family home. I'm really going to need one of you to live with me. Our mother-in-law approached the topic of cohabitation again. After all, I'm getting old and you girls will need to take care of me eventually. Consider it practice. Rose spoke up before I could. I won't do it. I absolutely refuse to live here. If that becomes the condition, I will get a divorce. Her tone was different this time, more decisive, which seemed to take our mother-in-law by surprise. Be ridiculous. What about you, Kate? Now it was my turn. Huh? I responded. So basically, you want us to live with you because you want us to take care of you, correct? Well, yes, that's part of it. But I also don't want to be alone. I want to live with one of my sons. When neither Rose nor I agreed, our mother-in-law began to grow impatient. Really? Can't you girls understand a simple request? This isn't a request, it's an order. Live with your husband here. Rose and I exchanged a look and nodded. We refuse. Perhaps this person could do it instead. I then spread a handful of photos across the table. What? What is this? Ted and his brother gasped. You see, those photos are evidence that Ted and his brother have been having affairs. Pictures of them entering hotels with women, kissing in the shadows of telephone poles. So you two have been cheating together. Such good brothers. And it seems our mother-in-law knew about it and yet helped you guys create alibis. And now, after all that, you dared to ask us to live with and care for you? How shameless. Rose nodded along at my side. If you need someone to care for you, ask these women in the photos. We're going to divorce, so we won't live with or care for you. But that's a problem. Our mother-in-law stuttered. A problem? We have no problems at all, right, Rose? I said. Rose grinned. If you divorce, you'll be the one with problems. There's no way a housewife like you can survive on your own, Ted's brother raged. Was he trying to mimic a sea lion again like he did a month ago? Not this time. The threat of divorce is just a bluff, Ted's brother sneered. Oh, I won't have any issues. I plan to take a substantial amount of compensation from you, Rose said with a clear face. What? I also intend to demand compensation from your mistress. I should be able to rent a small apartment and re-establish my life with that. I'll have to find a job, of course, but I'm determined to make it on my own. I'll help you, Rose. We two women will support each other and overcome the situation. If I use my personal savings, I can manage to live for the time being, I added. With that, Rose and I stood up, resolute and united in our decision. Once Rose squeezed compensation from her husband and his mistress, we arranged for her to repay me with a little interest. We had to squeeze money out of these two no matter what. Oh, Ted, I also plan to demand compensation from you and your mistress. Even though I work, money is never enough for a divorcee in her 40s, I declared to Ted, who clung to me. I'm sorry, it was just a fling. I wasn't serious, he pleaded. Whether you were serious or not, an affair is an affair. I've already consulted with a lawyer, so please make your excuses to them, I said, handing Ted and his brother-in-law business cards of a lawyer's office. The lawyer on the card was the same for both. We had both hired the same lawyer at the same time and managed to get a small discount on the retainer. A sort of bundle deal, you might say, a clever trick worthy of a wise housewife. Hold on, let's talk this out. Please, not a divorce. I apologize. I'm begging you. Ted and his brother-in-law both knelt and apologized on the spot. But my mother-in-law got even angrier and started shouting. Well, if you're going to divorce, just do it. Can't stand a little infidelity from your husband. I don't need such an intolerant daughter-in-law. Then Rose laughed all of a sudden. She looked so confident. After all, a woman becomes strong with a bang. Mother-in-law, you're quite tolerant of infidelity, aren't you? Could it be because you've been in the same boat? My mother-in-law was taken aback. What are you talking about all of a sudden? Didn't he cheat back in the day? That's what I heard from the neighbors, with a part-time student from Ted's swim club. What on earth is going on with your family's DNA? I know that your late husband was so diligent, I added. Who told you such nonsense? My mother-in-law demanded. Who knows? Maybe you should ask around. Well, we're going to go pack up our things. Rose and I stood up simultaneously. With bright smiles, we said, please enjoy your time. After that, Rose and I each went back to our homes, gathered our pre-packed belongings, and left. We'd already rented an apartment, so we met up there. We received numerous calls from Ted and my brother-in-law on our mobile phones, but we ignored them all and left everything to our lawyer. After a while, our double divorce was finalized, and we got our alimony. My mother-in-law's plan to have her daughter-in-law take care of her was foiled, and she had to rely on her two sons. Apparently, there's now a quarrel between my brother-in-law and Ted over who has to take care of her. Come back, it was my fault. Let's start over. I'll be waiting for you at the restaurant where we used to go on dates. Such Romeo-like emails from my brother-in-law and Ted kept arriving on Rose's and my phone. Every night after work, we would read these emails, have a drink, and laugh at our ex-spouses. Hey Rose, do you know which restaurant he's talking about? I asked. I'm not sure. The restaurant we used to date at has been demolished though. I wonder where he's waiting, she replied. For a while, it was just the two of us and the cat. When Rose found a job, she moved out of the apartment. We escaped from that toxic family together and planned to keep in touch and support each other in the future. As I pet my beloved cat and drink my coffee, I'm enjoying my peaceful life. Hello, this is Ashley. I have a story to share about my life, and I thought this would be the right place to tell it. It's about my mother, Tammy, my brother, Jaden, and I grew up in a middle-class household. Our dad left when we were young, and we don't remember much about him. From what we know, he gave up his rights to us and left us with our mom. Some people told me later that it was my mom who drove him away. To be honest, I understand now. My mom is a toxic and abusive person. Growing up, my mom put Jaden and me through a lot of abuse. She was very controlling and abused us both mentally and physically when we didn't listen to her. We were very isolated because she didn't want anyone to interfere with her parenting or teach us about abuse. For a long time, I thought my mom's behavior was normal. I didn't have any friends to tell me otherwise. It was my husband, Elias, who opened my eyes. We met at a friend's party and started dating soon after. We recently got married, but this story happened right before our wedding. After I moved in with Elias, he'd encouraged me to go to therapy to deal with my mental trauma. He helped me realize that my mom's behavior was not normal. He often asked me to limit contact with her, but I was scared to do it because of how she raised me. If I had cut her off, I could have avoided a lot of drama. Now on to the story. When Elias and I got engaged, my mom wasn't happy. She saw Elias as a threat to her control over me, but she was excited to plan the wedding. I thought it would help us repair our bond, but I was wrong. One day, she came to my house and said, "You need to get off your butt and plan the wedding with me. I know you have horrible taste, so I'm here to help you. First, you need to expand your budget because my vision for you needs a lot more money." Mom, I can't do that. I only work part-time and can't spare a lot of money for the wedding. We're happy with what we have right now. That's ridiculous. I'm telling you it's not enough. Ask your rich husband to give you more money. Mom, I don't want him to spend too much money. We agreed on splitting things evenly. You don't have to worry about wedding planning. I'm handling everything and considering Elias's opinions as well. Oh please, Ashley, you know nothing about wedding planning. You will do exactly what I say, or there is no use having a wedding. And stop consulting Elias about everything. He's a man and shouldn't have an opinion. He works too much and doesn't have time for this anyway. Even if he is the groom, his opinions matter, Mom. You can't just dismiss them. We're doing fine and don't need your help. I wasn't asking you, Ashley. I'm telling you I will plan everything. You should know better than to ignore me. I hope you still remember what happens when you don't listen to me. I didn't appreciate the way my mom talked to me. I also didn't like how she wanted to take over my wedding plans. It was bizarre but not surprising given how controlling she was. But this time, I wasn't going to let her do it. I ignored my mom's words and didn't consult her at all. She kept sending me suggestions and demanding to be included in the wedding planning. But I ignored her and made my own decisions. I also repeatedly told her to back off and not interfere. After some time, she stopped bothering me. I thought everything was fine and maybe she had realized she was being too controlling. That was just wishful thinking on my part. My mom was only getting started. About 2 months before the wedding, I discovered something awful. I called the venue to confirm some changes and was told that I had canceled the date. I was in complete shock because I hadn't done that. I immediately called all my vendors to see if something had happened with them as well. To my horror, everything I had booked had been canceled. The venue, the flowers, the cake, the music, and even the catering. All my hard work and money went down the drain, as the deposits were non-refundable. I had no idea what was going on. All I knew was that someone called them from my phone to cancel everything. It felt surreal. When I found out that every vendor had been canceled and rebooked by other people, I broke down in tears. I was still a sobbing mess when my husband walked through the door. He took one look at me and became very concerned. I wasn't calm enough to explain, so he comforted me first. I tearfully told him everything, and his expression changed from concern to anger. He said, "This has to be someone who targeted you personally and had access to your phone. It has to be someone close to you. Why would anyone betray me like that, Elias? What have I ever done to deserve this? It's only 2 months until our wedding. What will we do now? I don't even have much money left." "We can worry about the wedding later, Ashley. First, we need to find out who did this and why. Do you have any suspicions?" "No, Elias. I don't know who would even do this to me. This is just pure evil. It hurts to know that someone I trust did this." "Don't worry. We will find out who did this and make sure they face the consequences. You need to call someone who can comfort you right now. Maybe calling your brother will help. You really need some support at this moment." Elias was right. I needed a good support system, and my brother was one of the best choices. I considered calling my maid of honor, but I knew she was busy working the night shift that day. So I called my brother and told him everything. He was concerned for me because I was still a crying mess. He sounded genuinely mad, and then said something that rocked my world. "Oh God, I really didn't think she would go through with this horrible plan. I should have known my warnings wouldn't be enough." "Jaden, what are you talking about? Do you know who might have done this?" Yes, Ashley, I know who did this. It was Mom. No wonder she seemed to be in such a good mood when I spoke to her yesterday. Mom did this to me? But how are you so sure? How did you know? This is not making any sense. Mom told me about her plan a month ago. I don't think she meant to tell me, but she must have let it slip by mistake. I warned her and yelled at her not to do this. She agreed with me in the end, but I see now that she was lying. My mind was spinning with this information. It killed me inside to know that my mom did this. Then, I suddenly remembered that I was out for lunch with my mom on the day everything was canceled. That was the date my vendors told me about. I hadn't realized this earlier because the news of the cancellations was too much to handle. Now that the first wave of sadness had subsided, I started to connect the dots. I said, "Oh God, yes, I do remember. I went out with Mom for lunch the day everything was canceled. I hadn't realized this sooner. Jaden, why didn't you tell me what Mom was planning?" "I'm so sorry, Ashley. You're already under a lot of stress from the wedding planning, and Mom wasn't making things any better. I thought I could handle her myself and not give you another thing to worry about. I should have told you sooner. I'm so sorry." "Oh, Jaden, it's okay. I know you tried your best to protect me from Mom. I know how much you care about me. This is not your fault. You did what you could. But Ashley, what will happen to the wedding now? You said everything has already been rebooked by other people. What will you do now? I could help you out with a little money. I do have some savings you can use." It broke my heart when Jaden said that. My brother cared so much about me, while my mom felt nothing for me. I was still finding it hard to believe that she had done this. I had been conditioned not to question my mom's decisions, and my past trauma made me have doubts. I somehow wanted to believe that my mom didn't do this. Before I could reply, Elias said, "Jaden, you don't have to worry about this. We've got this. Thanks for offering. You really are Ashley's true family, and soon you'll be mine as well. I feel really bad for being so stupid. I'm sorry, Elias. I hope you guys come up with something. I'll help as much as I can." "I appreciate that, Jaden. We'll take care of the wedding, don't worry. But now I think we need to have a little chat with your mother." I hung up the phone and looked really worn out. Elias was doing his best to comfort me, but I was also feeling guilty. He trusted me with the wedding preparations, but somehow my own mom destroyed everything. This was his day too, and now he was losing everything because of me. Elias could sense my frustration and said, "Ashley, there is no use thinking about what happened. We can't reverse what is done." "But I feel horrible, Elias. This was supposed to be our big day. You trusted me to plan everything, and now I don't even know what to do. Listen to me, Ashley. The wedding is going to happen no matter what. I will marry you, and I won't wait longer than necessary." Elias's words somehow made me even more emotional. I didn't know how we could arrange everything on short notice. My funds were low, and I knew it wouldn't be enough. The only saving grace was the fact that my dress was secure in my closet. Yes, I had checked that too, but a dress won't be enough for a wedding. It was a disaster, and I felt lost. How will we manage everything, Elias? I barely have any money left now. Even your money has gone down the drain. I feel awful. Money's just money, Ashley. You don't have to worry about it. I already wanted to give you a large wedding fund, but you refused. The offer is still on the table. In fact, I will double the budget and help you rearrange everything." "Really? You would do that? But I don't want you to lose your money." "Honey, I'm not losing anything. I want us to have the wedding of our dreams. I can always earn back the money I spend. I would still have plenty left to not be financially compromised. This wedding is happening, and we will stick to our original plan. We will have the dream wedding and much more. God has presented us with this chance. Let's take it and make the best of it." Guys, this was what my man said to me. I swear on that day, I felt like the most loved woman in the world. Despite everything, I knew that my husband and my brother were on my side. They were willing to go to great lengths to make sure the wedding happened. It brought happy tears to my eyes. I hugged Elias and said, "Thank you so much for saying that, Elias. I don't know what I would do without you. I feel a little better now. Please don't stress out about this. This time around, you will get more help than before. But we still need to address the elephant in the room. We need to talk to your mother. I'm willing to pay for everything, but I have a condition. I don't want your mother at the wedding." "I can't disagree with you, Elias. I don't want my mom at the wedding anymore. If she really did this, she needs to face the consequences of her actions. I'll support your decision and tell her that myself. I really wanted to hear the truth from my mother. I wanted to see how she would react to the news, and I wanted to tell her about our new decision. At the back of my mind, I was still hoping that my mom wasn't the one who did it. I know I'm stupid, but don't worry, I learned my lesson. As soon as I called my mom and she answered, all my hope was gone. She had the most patronizing voice when she said, "So, did you finally get the news? I've been waiting for your call." "It was you, wasn't it, Mom? You were the one who canceled everything. You betrayed me and did the worst thing imaginable right now." "Of course it was me, Ashley. Who else would it be? Do you really think I would have allowed you to proceed with this wedding? Why would you even do that, Mom? Why don't you want me to get married? I just don't understand." "You don't understand, Ashley. Well, did you really expect me to sit idle while you ignored my recommendations and did what you wanted? You didn't do what I said. So now you will have no wedding. Are you that much of a control freak, Mom? You derailed your own daughter's wedding because you didn't get your way. This is not even your day. You should have done what I told you. I always had a vision for your wedding, and you know things always go like I want them to go. You also knew that there were consequences for not listening to me. You simply needed a reminder of that. Too bad you missed getting married because of it. Next time you decide on a date, you better consult me to avoid this from happening again." Years of trauma and hurt poured into my brain. My mom's words gave me horrible flashbacks of my childhood when she had been extremely controlling towards me and Jaden. Her horrible punishments for not doing what she wanted also crowded my mind. I realized that she had gotten to this point because I never stood up to her. Even now that I'm an adult, I fear her and keep her around to avoid upsetting her. But this was going to change. I wasn't going to put up with her horrible behavior anymore. I was going to show her who has the power in my life. I laughed at my mom and said, "Mom, you have to be kidding me right now. Do you really think I will cancel my entire wedding just because you threw a temper tantrum? That won't be happening." "What do you mean, Ashley? I have canceled everything you had planned. You need to start from scratch, and I know you have no money to do that. You will need money from me, which means I will do what I want." "Ah, here's where you are wrong, Mother. I don't need your money or opinion. I do have the means to rearrange the wedding. My fiancé has agreed to double our budget and rearrange everything, but this time you won't be invited." My mom was not expecting that at all. She had expected me to be helpless. She had expected me to cave and do what she wanted. She thought I would give her the reins to my wedding because I had no money to rearrange everything. She was wrong. Even if Elias hadn't offered the money, I wouldn't have given my mom any control over my wedding. I knew that it was time to finally put my foot down. I was never going to forget that she tried to stop my wedding and made me lose a lot of money just because I didn't follow her orders. I didn't want that kind of toxicity in mine or my husband's life, so I was firm on my decision. However, my mom threw an absolute hissy fit when she heard this. She screamed at me, "Have you lost your mind? I deserve to be at your wedding. You have no right to exclude me." "I have every right to exclude you, Mom. You tried to stop my wedding and made Elias and me lose thousands of dollars. What made you think I would invite you? I'm your dear mother, Ashley. I won't allow you to get married without my presence. There is no way you are excluding me from your wedding." "Well, newsflash, Mom, I'm an adult. You have no control over me anymore. I should have cut you off a long time ago, but I stupidly didn't. I'm rectifying my mistake and doing the right thing." "Absolutely not, Ashley. I won't allow a child of mine to be so disrespectful and ungrateful towards me. I will teach you a lesson, just wait. Threats simply won't work on me anymore, Mom. This time I will take precautions and make sure you don't get to interfere in my life. Starting today, you will never be in my life again. You lost that right when you canceled my wedding. Don't bother showing up to my wedding because I will throw you out." Mom started to scream and rage at me on the phone. I had already said what I needed to say and had no interest in listening to her, so I said goodbye and hung up. I also sent her a text informing her that she was disinvited from my wedding and that I was going low contact with her. I wanted to keep proof of the fact that I made my intentions clear. Mom replied with a slew of threats and insults. It was enough to make me anxious, so I showed it to Elias. He was more furious than I had ever seen him before. "That's it, Ashley. Your mother is unhinged. You need to be careful. She will do something drastic." "Don't worry, Elias. I'll be careful. She's gone absolutely insane, and God knows what she will do. We will have security at the venue we booked, and if she escalates her behavior, I think we should go to the cops for our safety." I agreed with Elias on this. Mom had been making some really messed up threats that could be considered serious. I knew what a monster she could be, so I was already prepared to deal with her. Mom thought that she would get away with what she did because I was scared of her. Well, with my husband and my brother on my side, I had nothing to worry about. I immediately called my brother and told him what went down. He was shocked at how insane Mom could be when she was bad. He also made the decision to go no contact with her for good. The next day, I was being extra careful in the house while I worked. I knew that my crazy mom would show up after Elias left for work, and boy, I was not disappointed. Mom showed up at my house and kept aggressively banging on the door. I checked my security cameras and saw that she really looked like a deranged woman. She was again screaming insults and threats. She kept talking about how she would come into my home and beat the living daylights out of me for being such a disrespectful brat. I went to the door but didn't open it. I told her very clearly that I wouldn't be letting her in. I also told her that I would call the cops on her if she didn't leave. She didn't listen to me and started to get even more aggressive. It felt like my door would come off the hinges. I was actually a little scared at this point. Thankfully, in the middle of her tantrum, the cops arrived. One of my neighbors had called the cops, fearing for my safety. Got to love the neighbors who help in need. The cops came and removed her from my premises. When Elias returned home, we jointly decided to file for a restraining order against my mom. We went to a lawyer the next day and started the proceedings. Thankfully, my account and my neighbor's account made it possible to get a restraining order. My mom did throw a potted plant at my door, so it was easier to get a restraining order. She was also ordered to get a psychological evaluation since her behavior in court was also problematic. Our wedding happened on the day it was supposed to happen. In the last 2 months, Elias and Jaden joined hands to make this possible. We made some really beautiful arrangements, even though it cost quite a bit of money. Elias didn't mind, of course, since he chose everything himself. The day went beautifully, except when my mom showed up and we had to call the cops on her. She's in jail right now, so all is well. They put her in prison for violating the restraining order. I haven't heard from her since that day. I will say that my married life is treating me well. Jaden is also doing good and has landed a better job recently. I'm very proud of him and think that we will all be okay. My toxic mother is out of our lives and I am finally able to breathe in peace again. Covered in blood and dirt, I could only think how much I hated my mother-in-law, Rachel, who laughed as she pointed at my head. I had collapsed from heat stroke while cleaning the yard under her orders, hitting my head on a garden rock. Blood oozed from the wound, sticking to my palms, and I felt dizzy and nauseous. Driving or even walking was out of the question, so I called an ambulance. When Rachel saw the call history, she laughed. "Did you call an ambulance for that? Young people these days are such a hassle. It's because of idiots like you that those who really need it suffer. You should have gone yourself." She dragged me by the arm, forced me to stand, and shoved me into her car. Although furious with Rachel for calling me dirty, I was grudgingly grateful she was taking me to the hospital. I thanked her reluctantly. "Thank you for dragging me around, injured." "It's fine. You're supposed to go to the hospital by yourself." She laughed as she steered the car. However, she turned in a direction away from the hospital. "Wait, where are we going?" I asked. "I'm Cynthia, 28 years old, and I work as an office clerk from Monday to Friday." One evening, while watching TV, my mobile phone rang. It was Keela, a friend who moved here with me from our hometown. "Cynthia, are you free after work next Friday?" Kayla asked. "We often went out once or twice a month. There's a dinner party. Want to come?" I had no particular plan, so I agreed. At the dinner party, I met my husband, Walter, who was 4 years older than me. We both loved traveling and hit it off while sharing travel stories, exchanging contact information. From then on, Walter and I called and texted every day and started hanging out on our days off. Time with Walter was always fun, and we quickly grew closer. About 6 months later, we started dating. After 2 years together, we got married. Soon after our marriage, Walter was transferred, and I quit my job to become a housewife. Given Walter's job at a big corporation, future transfers were expected. We began looking for a new place to move when Rachel, my mother-in-law, called. "Cynthia, do you have a moment?" she asked. "Yes, I do," I replied. "I heard you're moving here. Would you consider living with us? It's tough for me to support Theo alone." and it would be reassuring to have you with us. Initially, we had declined since father-in-law Theo's injury wasn't serious, but knowing Theo's kind nature, we worried and decided to move in. My in-laws' house was so large it could have been a guest house. We wouldn't have to worry about space. I had met Theo several times while dating Walter, and we bonded over our love for sweets. About a month after moving in, Theo's injury was healing, but he dropped a heavy object on his leg, causing a fracture. He needed surgery and had to be hospitalized for about 6 months. After completing the hospital admission process and bringing him clothes, I returned home to find Rachel at the entrance. "Rachel, I'm back. I'll start preparing dinner right away," I said, smiling. But she glared at me. "How long is this paperwork going to take? Your slowness is maddening," she said coldly. I stood frozen, unable to comprehend what had happened. "How long are you going to just stand there? Get moving and start making dinner," she barked. Rushed by her words, I hurried to the kitchen. From the day Theo was hospitalized, Rachel, who had been kind until then, transformed completely. I thought she was just in a bad mood, but from that day on, she began to harass me behind Walter's back. When Theo was home, Rachel would prepare breakfast, while I was in charge of lunch and dinner. Now I was responsible for cooking all 3 meals and managing all the household chores. Rachel, on the other hand, stopped doing any housework, spending her time watching TV or sleeping in. When she was awake, she complained about the food being too salty or the cleaning being sloppy. Cleaning a large house took a considerable amount of time, but the hardest part was managing the garden and the field. Given the rural setting, both were large and weeding was a constant struggle. Previously, a service had been hired for maintenance, but now I was managing it alone. If even a little weed was left, Rachel would scold me. At first, I endured it, but fearing I wouldn't have time for children if this continued, I consulted Walter. Walter believed me and warned Rachel, "Not even reflecting on your own insufficient work, and you enlist Walter on your side? If Cynthia could just manage the housework more efficiently, this would all be resolved. Do you really want to paint me as the villain? Honestly, what a heartless daughter-in-law I've ended up with," she sneered. Her verbal abuse only escalated from there. No matter what I said, it didn't get through to Rachel, so we decided to move. However, we missed the early spring moving season, leaving almost no apartments available. Those that were available were too far from Walter's workplace, so we decided to move into a new apartment that was soon to be completed and open for applications. The season changed to summer. Woken by the lively chirping of cicadas, I prepared breakfast for Rachel and Walter. After seeing Walter off, I tried to return to my room, but Rachel blocked my path, throwing sarcastic remarks and complaining about the breakfast taste or how sloppy the dishes were washed. Every day, I faced these criticisms, and as I hung my head, I heard a car engine outside. Thinking Walter had gone to work, I was suddenly shoved by Rachel, falling outside the entrance and landing on my backside. Rachel threw a garbage bag at me. "Today, you're cleaning the garden and the field. Don't even think about coming back inside until you're done." She laughed as she closed and locked the door. No matter how much I knocked, there was no sign of the door unlocking. Heading towards the back door, I found it locked as well, and a complete round of the house revealed all windows were locked too. Since I was at the entrance seeing Walter off, I didn't have my wallet or mobile phone with me. Feeling helpless, I heard Rachel's laughter from behind. "Still standing there. Get to cleaning. If you work hard enough, maybe I'll consider giving you some water." Rachel mocked me from the living room window. As I rushed over, she closed and locked both the window and the door, laughing spitefully. Left with no choice, I began pulling weeds amidst the cicadas chirping. After a while, I saw Rachel leave the living room. Moving to a spot out of her view, I started contemplating my next steps. Staying out in the harsh heat could lead to heat stroke. I thought about asking someone for help, but the neighbors would either be at work or out in the fields. Considering the risk of walking to the fields under the sun, I decided to hide in the shade until Rachel came to check. But Rachel showed no signs of coming out, and soon the sun was directly overhead, with no shade left. The midsummer sun mercilessly scorched my skin. I knocked on the living room window where Rachel was watching a drama. Looking annoyed, she opened the window and said, "What's this? You've spent 3 hours and only managed this much." She glared at the garden. In the midst of this unbearable heat, I begged desperately for water and a hat, but Rachel just laughed mockingly. "Then just pull out that big weed over there by the garden stone. After that, I'll give you some water. My throat parched. I squatted near the garden stone, trying to endure the nausea. However, my body had reached its limit. Instead of squatting, I collapsed towards the garden stone. Touching my instantly aching head, I saw blood from where I must have hit it on the stone. At that moment, I heard Rachel's scream. Rushing over hastily, she saw my blood and backed away. "We're going to the hospital. Grab your insurance card and come to the car," she yelled before hurrying back to the entrance. I entered the living room, grabbed my wallet and mobile phone, and called an ambulance. I was finally relieved to hear they would arrive quickly. Moving to the parking lot was impossible as my consciousness began to fade. I crawled onto the cold flooring, feeling a chill over my entire body. I took deep breaths until suddenly I was pulled by the arm. "I won't allow you to die here. We need to get to the hospital quickly," Rachel said, pulling my arm and forcing me to walk to the parking lot. Despite my nausea and desire to wait for the ambulance, Rachel wouldn't listen. She forcefully pushed me into the back seat and started driving roughly. Holding onto my mobile phone, I noticed the scenery outside the window was wrong. We were not heading towards the town with the hospital, but into the countryside, dense with fields and paddies. Minutes later, Rachel stopped the car and dragged me out, surrounded by fields with no one around due to lunchtime. Rachel's ugly smile grew as she forcibly took my tightly gripped mobile phone. Young people these days call an ambulance for a little blood. Have you ever thought about what the neighbors will say if they see an ambulance in front of the house? Nowadays, idiots call ambulances for ridiculous reasons, putting those who really need help at inconvenience. Such a foolish daughter-in-law needs to be disciplined. "Walk to the hospital and don't be so spoiled," she said, taking my mobile phone and putting it in her pocket. She dragged me, nearly powerless, towards the fields, with only the rice paddies below and no one in sight. "Please stop," I begged. Despite my desperate pleas, Rachel only laughed with a nasty smile. Saying nothing, she pushed me with all her might. I fell, pain surging through me from the impact. Satisfied with my moans, Rachel laughed and got back into the car without looking back. "Wait, please wait," I cried, holding my aching head, but all that receded was the sound of the engine as Rachel left me in the fields and drove away. I closed my eyes to escape the piercing sunlight. Without a mobile phone to call for help, and no ambulance expected to come to such a remote place, I felt hopeless. Being in a field below the road level meant no one could see me. The thought of possibly dying was my last before consciousness turned black. My eyelids fluttered open, bringing a white ceiling into view. Looking around, I saw the clean bed and realized I was in a hospital. "Walter." I spoke to Walter, who sat beside the bed holding my hand and laying face down. Walter quickly lifted his head. "Cynthia, I'm so glad you're awake." He hugged me, tears in his eyes. He had stayed by my side the whole time I was unconscious. Confused, Walter explained why I was there. I hadn't died but had fainted from heat stroke. Luckily, the owner of the paddy field, who had come back early for lunch, found me. They called an ambulance in a panic. I was in a dangerous condition and was taken to a nearby large hospital where my life was saved. Hearing the hospital's name, I realized it was where Theo was hospitalized. Theo had come to check on me several times, worried, so I thought I'd thank him later. Then my thoughts turned to Rachel. "Walter, what about her?" Walter gripped my hand tightly and began to speak with a stern face. Rachel, seemingly unaware of anything, had returned home and tried to send the ambulance away, claiming she knew nothing when it arrived. Suspicious, the emergency services personnel were inquiring if Rachel might be the perpetrator of a prank call when suddenly the door opened. "Mom, what happened? Why is there an ambulance parked at our house?" It was Walter who had rushed in. He was supposed to have the day off but had gone to work due to an unavoidable task and had returned home as planned in the early afternoon. The emergency services explained that they had come to the house in response to a call about someone with heat stroke symptoms and bleeding from the head. But since I, the caller, was nowhere to be found, they were speaking with Rachel. Surprised by their ominous tone, Walter immediately called my phone. At that moment, Rachel, sweating and smiling nervously, grabbed Walter's arm. "I remember now, shopping. I said I was going out for lunch supplies, so she should be back soon, right?" Walter was not the only one who felt suspicious. "Sir, please call your wife," said one of the emergency services personnel. "Didn't you hear? She said she'd be back soon." As soon as the emergency services person said that, Rachel lunged at them, confronting the man aggressively. Meanwhile, Walter dialed my mobile phone. The ringtone from my phone could be heard coming from Rachel's pocket. "This is my ringtone." I had Cynthia listen and set the same tone. What a coincidence that I'm getting a call at this very moment. "Mom, show me your phone." Walter pressed Rachel, who was rapidly making excuses. Frustrated by Rachel's act of ignorance, Walter forcibly reached into her pocket and pulled my mobile phone out. He glared at her. Rachel let out a small scream and ran up to the second floor as if fleeing from Walter. Chasing immediately, Rachel slipped just before reaching the top of the stairs and tumbled down, her legs bending in clearly unnatural directions. Ultimately, Rachel, crying from the pain in her legs, was too preoccupied to speak about me. The emergency services said they would contact the police to start a search, and Walter readily agreed. Unable to leave Rachel in that state, they reluctantly took her to the hospital by car. Upon arriving at the hospital, Walter found me by chance. If I hadn't been at the hospital, they were planning to contact me after I woke up to hear what happened. But finding me by chance, Walter left Rachel to the doctors and stayed by my side the entire time. "Cynthia, I'm sorry. I never thought Mom could do something like this. She's mean, but not violent, not like this. I'm really sorry for putting you in danger. I'm just glad you're alive." Walter apologized with tears streaming down his face. Fortunately, the cut on my head wasn't serious, and the bleeding had stopped by the time I was brought to the hospital. The heat stroke was more severe, and I was still on an IV, but it was nearly finished. If there were no dizziness or other symptoms, I could go home. Thinking about returning to that house made me feel heavy. Then I wondered what had become of Rachel since coming to the hospital. "It's not your fault, Walter, but I can't live with her anymore." "What happened to her?" I asked while stroking Walter's crying back. Walter, looking slightly uncomfortable, replied, "Actually, she's in the room next door due to bed availability." Rachel was currently next door. I could feel my heart racing, considering what might have happened if I hadn't been found. The thought made me shiver with fear and anger. Mom broke both her legs and will be hospitalized for a while. "She's definitely being punished," Walter said with a grim face. I couldn't stay silent. "Walter, I'm going to Rachel's room now," I said as I got out of bed, stable on my feet. Walter accompanied me to the next room. The room was empty except for Rachel. I walked up to her bed and said, "What a terrible sight. Do you understand a little now why someone might want to call an ambulance?" I glared at her. Upon seeing me, Rachel spat out, "You look well enough." It must have been all an act, and refused to even make eye contact. Unable to contain my anger, I retorted, "I'm only well because an ambulance was called right after. If not, I might not be here today. Meeting you now, I see you have no remorse for what you've done. I will sue you. Be prepared." Rachel hurled insults, calling me a failure of a daughter-in-law, and screamed, "I won't allow you to sue me." But I ignored her and left the room. I was discharged the next day. I immediately went to view a new apartment I had applied for and decided to move in the same day. We packed our things without any rush and moved out of Rachel's house. In the meantime, Walter had hired a lawyer and arranged to sue Rachel. When we went to Rachel's room with the lawyer, she looked shocked at first, but then began to scream in anger. "Do you even realize what you're doing? Is it so wrong for a young person to clean the garden? Getting heat stroke was your own fault." Honestly, it's tough to sue without direct evidence of what happened before Cynthia collapsed, the lawyer said, but we have the call history from Cynthia's phone requesting an ambulance. After that time, we saw Mom with Cynthia's phone, not to mention Cynthia's blood in Mom's car. We plan to pursue these points in the lawsuit. Shocked by Walter's cold words, Rachel broke down crying, hurling insults at me. "Say whatever you want, but be prepared for additional compensation for slander or defamation," I said firmly, leaving Rachel crying helplessly. We left the rest to the lawyer and moved to our new apartment, enjoying a peaceful life just for the two of us. 3 months later, Rachel called. No one had provided Rachel with a mobile during her hospital stay, so I had forgotten to block her number. Seeing Walter nod, I hesitantly answered the call. "Why is nobody home? This is your house, right? Come back home with your son. Theo and I have injured our legs. We need someone to take care of us. Even someone as dumb as you should understand that it's a wife's duty to care for her in-laws, right?" Just as Walter was about to yell, we heard Rachel laughing over the phone. "And return the money I lent you quickly. Complaining about compensation after borrowing from your parents. I never understand what goes through the mind of a stupid woman. I'll have to properly educate you again on that rotten mindset. Even though I took a few seconds to absorb Rachel's words, I still had no idea what she was saying. From what Rachel continued to say, it seemed that she thought the compensation she paid me was money she lent me. Confused by Rachel's words, Walter grabbed the phone. The only one with a rotten mind and attitude here is Mom. We want nothing to do with you anymore. Don't ever come back. Don't ever meet us again. Look up the meaning of compensation in a dictionary. Stay out of our lives forever, he yelled before hanging up and immediately blocking her number. Walter even deleted Rachel's contact information. Although we had settled with Rachel through compensation, I decided to report her actions to the police. It turned out Rachel was already being sued by the owner of the rice field. My fall had disrupted the rice planting, significantly affecting the harvest, and damaged the pump used to manage water in the field. The owner was furious. Rachel, having paid me compensation, was nearly broke and unable to repay her debts. That's why she demanded the money back from me, but it was no longer my concern. I had visited the owner with a fruit basket as an apology, but they laughed it off, saying the person who pushed me was to blame. Eventually, Rachel had to take out a loan to pay a settlement to the owner and was working hard to repay it. Rachel was also facing divorce from Theo and had been kicked out of her home. She never changed her view of me as the one who took her precious son away. It seemed Rachel couldn't stand the sight of Theo and me getting along well. She mercilessly tasked me with chores while Theo was hospitalized, trying to teach me a lesson about who held the upper hand. As a result, her actions almost led to manslaughter, causing even Theo to disown her. After the division of property, Theo sold the family home and moved. Rachel, left without a home, now struggles through her days in a terrible state. She is still looking for Theo, but she will never find him because he is now living with us. We're staying together until Theo decides on his next place without letting Rachel know, of course. Theo has safely been discharged from a hospital and has improved enough to go for daily walks as part of his rehabilitation. His everyday activities have slowed down a bit, but he doesn't require live-in care. So we've chosen to stay close and watch over him. Theo and I continue to have a great relationship, and for a change of scenery, we often go on trips or dine out together on our days off. Hey, I'm Susan, a 32-year-old single and proud woman who leads a $25 million business. This success wasn't just handed to me. My journey involved my now ex-husband Ryan, though not in the way you might think. He excelled at making me feel small and worthless, which oddly fueled my drive to prove him wrong. The saga began when I was 26, fresh out of fashion school. I moved to Portland, eager to dive into the fashion scene, but breaking into that world was tough. I landed a job as a brand consultant for an art and antiques company. That's where I met Ryan, at an art museum. He was flashy, buying expensive pieces. He wasn't my type, but we clicked. Fast forward 2 years, and we were married. I moved into his luxurious mansion. He was the head of a luxury adventure travel company, raking in 6 figures a year. But, true to form, he was still all about chasing girls. Driven by my career and passion for fashion, I juggled my job and my fashion side projects. Life felt repetitive minus 9 to 5 during the week, socializing on weekends and sewing in my downtime. I had a vision and had been playing with fabrics for years. Back in college, I made custom dresses and I wasn't too shabby at it. But launching a fashion label was a different ballgame. I had some savings, but I needed more to take my brand to the big leagues, so I asked Ryan for help. Hey honey, I've been thinking. I want to start a business. I've been putting my dreams aside, and since we're not planning on having a baby anytime soon, now seems like the perfect time. If that's what you really want, you know running a business isn't easy, right? It's going to demand serious hustle. Yeah, I get it. I've thought this through. The thing is, I need your help. I know it's a big ask, but could you help me out with some money? Are you kidding me? The day I married you, I promised we'd be in this together. Too bad you forgot about our wedding vows, huh? No, I remember everything. Are you sure about this? What's mine is yours, remember. I love you. You're the best. With Ryan's help, I took the plunge and started my company. Those first few months were hectic and overwhelming. The workload was intense, but I powered through, working day and night, even on weekends. Months passed, and things between Ryan and me began to fall apart. Our jobs consumed us, leaving little time for each other. We barely talked, and having dinner together became a rare feat. I brushed it off, thinking once the company found its rhythm, I could balance things better. But life had other plans. The company wasn't doing great. We invested heavily in top-tier materials and the best designers, but buyers just weren't showing up. I couldn't figure out what went wrong. Maybe the marketing wasn't clicking. My confidence plummeted, and I felt like I'd made a colossal mistake. I needed a breather. Ryan suggested throwing a dinner party to reconnect with friends. It had been a while since we socialized outside of work, so I agreed. We invited two couples we were close to, Daniel and his wife Margaret, and Logan and his wife Ariella. Since none of us had the time or energy to cook, we ordered from a steakhouse. I did manage to whip up some brownies for dessert. As our guests arrived, the conversation flowed, and I started to relax. It felt like a mini vacation from all the stress, just catching up with good friends. Hey, before we begin, I just want to say thanks for hosting us, Susan. You're the reason we're having this dinner, to celebrate your success. Oh, thanks, guys. I'm lucky to have friends like you. You've come a long way, Susan. Cheers to your amazing business journey. Absolutely. Hey, Ryan, how about that bottle of Dom Perignon we got? Let's pop it open to mark the occasion. Of course, let's make it fancy. You guys know how to turn any gathering into a celebration. That's how we roll. Here we go, the good stuff. To friendship, success, and the little moments that make life special. Cheers. All right, let's dig in. Everyone, help yourselves. Wow, Susan, you've really created something amazing with your creativity. I saw some pieces lying around in the back, Logan commented. Thanks, Logan. It's been a wild ride. I replied, feeling a mix of pride and exhaustion. Seriously, you're like a business guru now, he continued. I wouldn't go that far, but I'm trying my best, I said, smiling modestly. You've got that drive, Susan. It's going to pay off soon, Margaret chimed in. Guys, Susan's whole business venture sounds brave and all. But in reality, running a company takes more than just passion. We've invested so much money in this business, but let's be honest, it's a money-losing machine. Ryan interjected harshly. Dude, that's harsh, Daniel replied, trying to lighten the mood. Just being real here. If you gave me that kind of cash, I could have done wonders, Ryan shot back. Ryan, seriously, Margaret said, looking incredulous. Hey, Susan, not everyone's cut out for the business grind. Honestly, I was a fool to think you could handle this alone. Maybe you should have just stuck to making those dresses that look like grandma gowns, huh? All right, enough business talk, guys. Remember the epic road trip we took a while back, when the GPS decided to give us a scenic detour through Nowhereville? Logan said, attempting to shift the conversation. Oh man, that was something. I was half expecting dinosaurs to show up and turn it into an adventure flick, Daniel added, laughing. Despite the attempt to change the subject, the atmosphere had become awkward. I sat there in disbelief, wondering if Ryan seriously meant what he said. Something had been off between us for a long time, but I didn't realize it had gotten to this point. The tension between us was palpable throughout the rest of the meal. After the party wrapped up and everyone left, I quickly showered and headed to bed, determined to talk to Ryan. Hey, can we talk about what went down at dinner tonight? I asked as I climbed into bed. Susan, seriously. I'm wiped out, Ryan replied, avoiding eye contact. Is that really how you feel? You think my company is just a joke? I pressed. Babe, I had a bit too much to drink earlier. Logan egged me on to chug 3 beers while you were hanging with the ladies, he said dismissively. Ryan, this is serious. Who are we? We barely talk or connect anymore. I need some honesty here, I insisted. You want honesty? Fine. Your company's tanking big time. It's the worst investment ever. Remember that time I splurged on that crazy expensive vintage golf club? Yeah, this beats it in the dumb department. Honestly, you're not cut out for it, he said bluntly. I'm struggling to believe this. You were so supportive when I shared my business idea, I said, feeling hurt. As your husband, I couldn't exactly shoot down your dreams. Sometimes, yeah, I faked it. You can get a bit dramatic, and honestly, if I'd been completely honest, I thought you might hold it against me forever, he admitted. Wait, so you never told me that? You just put it out there now? I asked, feeling betrayed. Think about it. You did end up getting what you wanted, didn't you? When we crossed paths at the museum, You were all in work mode, setting up the show. But instead of sticking to the tasks, you managed to bag a dude like me, who's pulling in six figures. He continued arrogantly. So you genuinely think I married you just for the money? I asked, stunned. Let's be real for a second. You were stuck in that underpaid job until I invested in your company. You were and are nothing without me. I had other options, girls doing better than you, but I picked you. Instead of complaining, maybe show some thanks, he said coldly. You know what, Ryan? Maybe we should take a break, I said, feeling devastated and hurt. Ryan was supposed to be my biggest fan, but instead he acted like he was the one who made me. I started questioning the man I married. Taking a break seemed like the smart move to clear our heads. Ryan always had a huge ego, evident in how he talked to our family and friends, but treating me the same way was a shocker. So I packed my stuff and crashed at my sister Megan's place for a bit. She had her own spot and needed a roommate, so I just moved in. Some of my work was done at home, not just at the office we rented for the company, so I ended up hauling a ton of stuff over to Megan's place too. Throughout all this drama, Ryan didn't say a peep to me. It was like a silent standoff, or something. Setting up shop at Megan's and sorting stuff out was kind of confusing that first week, but you know what they say, things sometimes happen for a reason. I dove deep into work, grinding day and night. No man in the picture meant I had plenty of time to hustle. Megan hooked me up with some folks who introduced me to more folks, and my network started expanding. I rethought my whole company strategy and decided to hit reset. Ryan had totally underestimated me. With the right support, a positive mindset, and encouragement, my company took off. The demand for my clothes shot through the roof. Everyone wanted my designs, and social media influencers were all about repping my brand. I was on cloud nine. The truth was, Ryan had been trying to get in touch with me after I moved out. He was calling me nearly every day, but I was ignoring his calls. I thought it might be time to sort things out, so I planned to swing by our house to grab my stuff and maybe, just maybe, patch things up with Ryan and consider moving back in. I got to the house, but Ryan wasn't there. I went into my old office first, gathered my things, and then figured I'd leave Ryan a voicemail. Hey, I swung by and used my spare key to grab a few things, but you know there's more to it. I wanted to see you too. I might have gone a bit overboard. As I was in the middle of leaving that voicemail, I paused and walked into our bedroom. My jaw practically hit the floor. There were women's clothes all over the bed. A silk black robe, a couple of dresses, and even makeup scattered on the dresser. It hit me like a truck. Ryan had been seeing someone else. He was involved with someone while still married to me, and to top it off, he brought her into our sacred bedroom. I snooped around a bit, hoping for a legitimate explanation, but deep down I knew better. The truth was staring me in the face. I dug through the closet and found a straight-up collection of another woman's stuff. Bags, bling, shoes, you name it. I took the long route home, needing time to process everything. When I finally got back, I broke down in front of Megan. Hey, why the tears? Did things not go well with Ryan? Megan asked, concerned. My life with Ryan is done, Meg. No, what happened? Did he say something? It's cool, we can talk to him and sort things out. It's not about what he said, Meg. It's about what I saw. I walked into our bedroom expecting just to grab my stuff, and what do I see? Another woman's clothes are everywhere. Wait a second, are you saying he's been messing around with someone else? Like cheating? Yep, you got it. And not just anyone else, Meg. He brought her into our bedroom, our freaking personal sanctuary. Can you believe that? Oh, Sue, I'm speechless. That's like a whole new level of mess. I'm so damn sorry you're going through this. Honestly, Meg, I'm not sure if I'll ever be okay again. I mean, here I was second-guessing my decision to take a break from him, thinking I was overreacting, and then I walk in and... Sue, listen to me. You're so strong, and you deserve way better than this. We'll get through this mess together, step by step. Look, you've got that big fashion event coming up. Promise me you'll focus on that, okay? Don't let this mess with your head. You know what, Meg? There's just one step I need to take. I'm calling my lawyer tomorrow to get that divorce ball rolling. The next time I'm facing Ryan is when I'm handing him those damn papers. I just can't find the words to say to him. The disgust is too real. Are you sure about this? I mean, maybe you're rushing into it, Megan asked, her concern evident. Nope, Meg, I'm sure. He had the nerve to diss me and act like some hero for choosing me over better girls. But cheating and fooling around with someone else? Sorry, that's a deal breaker for me. Whatever you decide, I've got your back. Your call, your life. I'm in your corner all the way. I stuck to my word and called my lawyer, putting the whole divorce process in motion. Meanwhile, I had a massive marketing event for my company coming up. Big shots and major names were going to be there, so I had to keep my head in the game. And trust me, my company was in full bloom. Not to boast, but let's just say I made some pretty lavish purchases for myself. Anyway, I made sure to invite all my friends to the event. The big day came, and famous faces, social media stars, and just regular peeps like my friends were all in the mix. I was running around, making sure everyone was having a blast. Then the security guys pulled me aside and told me there was this drunken dude at the entrance causing a ruckus. His name was Ryan. I was fuming. He must have gotten wind of this through our mutual friends. I made my way to the entrance. Seriously, Ryan, is this who you've turned into? I could ask you the same thing, he slurred. Just go, Ryan. There's no room for you here. And what about you? Look at this whole spectacle you've created. What exactly are you trying to prove? Ryan, can we just? You thought throwing a party and gathering people would magically make you important and successful. You're a screw up. This is a screw up. Let's not do this now, okay? We can talk tomorrow. Sure, go ahead and do what you're great at. Find another rich guy in there and bleed him dry, you vampire. I reached my limit and finally had enough. I made sure he got escorted out. The whole night was ruined for me. My mood hit rock bottom. I decided to keep the incident to myself. I didn't want to spoil anyone else's time. By then, I had grown so much stronger and knew what I had to do. The very next day, I sent him a hefty check, just to prove a point and deflate that massive ego of his. He tried calling me for days afterward, but I gave him radio silence. Finally, the divorce papers came through. I decided to give them to him face to face. And let me tell you, it was not just one paper I wanted to hand over, it was two. He had spent ages tearing me down, making me feel like I was worth nothing. He wrecked our marriage and even succeeded in raining on my parade during my big day. That was the tipping point for me. No more humility, no more pitying him. Sometimes you've got to show your true self and stand up to these self-absorbed types. I headed over to our place, knocked on the door, and Ryan answered. We stepped inside. Honey, I'm sorry for everything. You know what started as a joke and got out of hand. Yeah, we had our differences, but... Enough, Ryan. You think you're innocent in all of this? I know the truth. What do you mean? You've been cheating on me while I was away, and I don't even know. Did this happen before I moved out too? Is this why you kept saying you weren't ready for a baby? Who told you that? Who snitched on me? Wow, I can't believe this. What's wrong? You know what? I don't even want to know. Our marriage has been a complete train wreck. You weren't here and things got messed up, but what we have is real. Real? Ryan, you don't respect me. You don't love me. You just care about yourself. Is that what you think marriage is? I didn't even cash the check you sent me. I want us to be together. Let's move past this. You know what? You should cash it in. It's just money, and honestly, it means nothing to me. But you made such a fuss about it all these years. Come on, Susan, just let it go. What's your deal? I'll tell you what my deal is. I have two things for you. Check this out. What's this? Divorce papers. It's time to put an end to this mess. Wow, so you're really leaving me? You think you can just walk out like this? Ryan, it's not about thinking I can. It's about knowing I need to. Come on, Susan, you're not seriously doing this, are you? We've been through so much. Hold up, what's this? Oh, just a little something I thought you might find interesting. My balance sheet for the $25 million business you thought was a joke. Wait a minute, you're telling me this is your business? Ding, ding, ding. You got it, Ryan. The same business you called a money-losing machine. But how the heck did you? Oh well, that's the thing. While you were busy doubting me, I was hustling behind the scenes, making strategic moves and building my empire. Surprise? No way. This is insane. You did all of this without me. Yep, without you. Turns out I don't need someone dragging me down with their negativity. I can't believe it. You've outdone yourself. Funny how success looks good on me, huh? Ryan was seriously shaken. I'd never seen him so speechless in my life. His whole Mr. Know-It-All vibe was gone. He seemed like he'd swallowed a lemon or something. With the divorce papers signed, I finally felt a sense of relief. I am officially single and ready to take on the world, starting with New York, the fashion epicenter, next month. The word on the street is that Ryan has turned our old place into some kind of bachelor hangout. Apparently, he's constantly moping around, wallowing in his own regrets. Meanwhile, I'm out here totally owning the success game. It's like this constant high of proving him dead wrong. There's no need for someone else to define my worth. I've got that covered, thanks.